Guys, this is our third installment. We've got four installments, so we're more than halfway through. And today we're talking about rewiring your inner narrative. And so if you think that you don't talk to yourself, think again. Think again. And to pay attention to what it is you're saying, one of my favorite sayings is um, talk to yourself, don't listen to yourself. Because, boy, some of the things we say to ourselves, if myself or Dr. Ron was to say those things to you, guys, I'm telling you, you would absolutely fire us. You would like string us up, but you talk to yourself that way. And so we're really going to dig into that. And Dr. Ron's going to enlighten us in a lot of ways. Dr. Ron, welcome.
Well, thank you very much for getting together again and welcome everybody. And yeah, hopefully we'll have some fun and you'll gain some wisdom and information that'll help you in your life.
Well, I know I have, and it's a lot of fun. So we're just gonna just jump right in.
But
So, what are limiting beliefs, and how do they develop because of trauma?
I think in terms of their limiting beliefs are deeply ingrained thoughts and perceptions that restrict our potential, basically. They shape how we view ourselves, others, the world, often acting as kind of a barrier to our personal and professional growth. And the characteristics of limiting beliefs are that they're self-defeating in nature. For example, we may have beliefs like I'm not good enough or people can't be trusted. And these beliefs are often operating on an unconscious or subconscious level and influencing all of our daily decisions and emotions and how we see and experience life. So, the impact, of course, is that yes, there'll be self-sabotage in both your personal and professional life. And that, of course, results in having fear, failure, fear of rejection, which reduces your level of confidence and your motivation. And it's these negative and limiting beliefs that develop as a result of your long-term subtle in times. Lots of times the traumas we experienced as children, we even think are natural, but they were subtly difficult for us to handle. We didn't know how to emotionally process them or take care of them. And then there's, of course, other more significant traumas, but they all limit us. And the intense, unexpressed, resolved emotions around those, the anger, the hurt, the fear, the shame, and guilt, perhaps, that is, really what's limiting us because we've got our brake on to protect those, to control those feelings and to deny those feelings all the time. And that really sets up limiting neural pathways in our brain because most of our energy is going to control those unacknowledged, unexpressed feelings rather than going to moving forward in life and empowering our life. So, for example, a traumatic event in childhood can distort how we see ourselves and view the world. A child who doesn't get, I mean, this is a real basic one, but I think it's almost true for everybody. A child wants conditional love more than anything. You've heard me talk about that. But when they don't, unless a parent has, you know, Christ and Mother Teresa, they'd probably, are just trying to figure out how to get through life. I know when I was a parent, I was still a kid myself, and I think that's often the case. And I certainly wasn't thinking about unconditionally loving and accepting myself so that I could raise my two sons, from that place. And so, it feels like you're getting that unconditional love and you want more. You can end up feeling like you're unworthy of love. And that results in beliefs like I'm unlovable or like there's something wrong with me. And again, those aren't necessarily conscious beliefs. Those can be subconscious beliefs. I remember my
That's
dad,
horrifying.
well, my dad was a great guy, really. I mean, he came to all my games and took me camping, boating, great guy. But I remember saying to my mom several times, I don't think Dad loves me. And that's because he didn't show me love in the way that I needed to receive it. Mom was great at it. But so that I felt like I couldn't do things good enough. And yet he was only using, doing everything he could to help me gain expertise in whatever I was doing. And so a child's mind can take those things and shifts them into unsupported relationships, unsupported beliefs. And from that, we close down our heart. And that, of course, helps us to avoid pain. And so we also develop, all sorts of beliefs like, well, why should I try? I'm only going to fail. So I won't try and then I won't fail. Just all these odd beliefs that come up for us. It's like the key one that I use probably talking about it with most clients is if I love myself unconditionally, I'm afraid others will. And thousands of people, I'm afraid others won't like me. Well, and if you're just this little kid, and if others don't like me, what are you afraid of? Well, I'll be alone. And if I'm going to be afraid and all alone, what are you afraid of as a child? Well, I'm afraid I won't be able to take care of myself. I'm afraid I'll die. And then I go back to the beginning. So if you unconditionally love yourself, you're afraid that, and they sit there and they're startled to recognize that they have this belief system that says, oh, I'm afraid I'll die. Same with being fully in their power. If I'm fully in my power, others will not like me, and da da da, right down that same track. And so, of course, if we're running through life with those belief systems, they're going to sabotage. We're not going to love ourselves unconditionally. We're not going to be fully in our power because we've got this belief system that doesn't work, doesn't make sense to do those. So those feelings of unworthy of unconditional love, they lead us to doing whatever we can do to get the conditional love that's available in our family. We end up, you've heard me talk about it, playing that big game. I know as I came through, I became, and the big game is really relationship oriented. And it's a way we get love from others, and it's a conditional love. So I saw there's the three roles. There's the rescuer, the victim, and the persecutor. Well, I was a rescuer, and so I would find a partner who really needed to be rescued, and it's like, oh, okay, I'll love you if you rescue me, and vice versa. But sometimes, and especially in my first relationship, she would also become the persecutor and make me the victim, and then she'd rescue me. But we did this dance of of conditional love that limited us. And so you have to be able to step out of that and be with a partner who's really on the same journey of how fully can we open up our hearts and truly learn to love ourselves unconditionally. That makes sense?
Whew. Oh, it makes so much sense. It makes so much sense. Guys, for those of you that are watching, please, 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 as you have the questions, right then, right there, put them in the chat. Neither one of us will see them until we're done, but at the end, we'll go through and we'll answer all your questions. And if you don't put it in, you'll forget. And the fact that I just took that moment to say all that probably made me forget all the questions I was going to ask Dr. Ron. So you have to help me out here, guys. You got to put those questions in there. So just to go a little deeper into that,
Sure.
how many people do you think, what percent of people approximately do you think are walking around with limiting beliefs that literally say, if I love myself or if I'm in my power, I will die? How many people do you think are feeling that, or no one will like me and I'll be, shunned?
97%. And they're, of course, raising kids, and all those old emotional patterns are being passed on. We have these emotional family trees that nobody's willing to go into and trim out and get all the deadwood out and clean it up so that we learn to look for that. It's fine for a child to look outside of themselves for love and acceptance. That's very normal. But the problem is we get really attached to that program that optimized the amount of love we got as a child. And we get attached to it and we start using it throughout our life. And, people coming in who are in their 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, and even older, still using that old program for getting love, looking for love outside of themselves. And, by the time you're in your mid-teens or even starting in your teens, you should start, we should be training kids to look within themselves for that love and acceptance. Because that's, my mentor, Joseph Campbell, said, we fear to enter that cave within. And that is where we're going to find the treasure that we seek. And that treasure, of course, is that unconditional love that we always wanted. That treasure is ourself. Yeah. So,
And it is it is a treasure. I mean, it truly is. For those of you who don't know, I am working with Dr. Ron, and we're still going through the bumps. We're still definitely going through the bumps. It takes time, and and it's it's the most freeing thing I have ever done. I want you all to know that, like,
Empowering.
I say it again.
It's empowering.
Yes, yes, it truly is. It's what the analogies that you have used all this time, the whole time we've been working together, are making more and more sense the longer we go.
Good. Yeah.
It's just amazing, things like the brake and the gas. It's
Yeah.
huge. It is huge when you really let go of stuff. It's wow. It's just wow.
Indeed.
Okay. So how, for our listeners, how do they figure out what specific things are holding them back? What traumas are holding them back?
Yeah. You know, identifying limiting beliefs requires really self-reflection. The self-reflection gives you more self-awareness and emotional intelligence, and of course, often getting external feedback from, coaches and therapists or whoever it might be is kind of a necessary first step. But you can also recognize the symptoms of a limiting belief by your mindset, for example, or actions that you're taking in your life. If you're procrastinating and avoiding challenges, if you feel like you've got a lot of self-doubt or fear of failure, or even fear of success, many people have that as they do the other. If you're feeling
Sure.
stuck and you're negative self-talk, then those are indicators that you've got the sabotage going on and limitation. You know, you might want to ask yourself, well, what's stopping me? What do I really want? Who do I really want to be? And of course, you have to be able to breathe into and look deeply enough to discover the real answer there. It's almost, you have to explore your fears. And that's tough to do alone. I think it's impossible, to be honest with you. And I would certainly have tried it for myself. But, you've got to be able to recognize your comfort zone. Your comfort zone is kind of your range of consciousness that you're comfortable in. If I get too conscious, I take a week-long retreat and I get totally expanded. If I come home and I don't take care of myself, I drink or I don't get enough sleep or I go out carousing or whatever one might do, that lowers your consciousness. So it's like, oh, okay, well, I was too high, so now I want to get, or, oh, I notice I'm not taking care of myself. Maybe I better, do something to take better care of myself. So you kind of, when you hit that top one, you sabotage. When you hit the bottom one, you correct a little bit. But life isn't about living in a comfort zone that's going to kill you. It's about evolving and being, and shifting into higher, more expanded comfort zones and letting go of comfort zones and just being focused on what level of consciousness you're playing in. So, yeah,
Yeah. Guys, nothing good ever happens in the comfort zone.
it really, well, I've done enough research to know that it kills you. It quite literally does. It might be a slow unconscious death, but when you look at 8 out of 10 reasons people die is because of lifestyle choices, and those lifestyle choices are the result of their comfort zone. And yeah, so quite literally, it's gonna not work out for you. Yeah.
Yeah, and most of us have tried that, and it hasn't worked yet. So maybe we need to try something just a little bit different and open
Yep.
our horizons a little bit. So the specific limiting belief, the way you figure that out is
Well, you mean on your own or
on
with
your own.
somebody
If you were
helping
to,
you?
if somebody is going to try and do it on their own,
Yeah.
how
Well,
would they figure out, like, this one is messing me up?
yeah, well, again, look for where you're getting triggered, where you're feeling anxious. And, if it's public speaking, then it might be fear of being judged or criticized. If you're, fear of leadership, it might feel like you're not enough. Or if it's in relationship, it's probably because you're not feeling lovable and acceptable, So you really have to just breathe and pay attention to your life. What are your habits? What are your tendencies? and it's not always going on, but if you start looking at the bigger picture, what recurs in your life? What's the recurring challenge? What's the recurring difficulty that you run into? And I would say, identify those patterns. When do I struggle? Why do I struggle? Really asking those deeper questions, and you're going to come to a place of, but yeah, again, we're really, and I really don't mean to sound like I'm trying to sell something, but I spent a lot of time going through this. I've seen a lot of people go through this. I mean, years, even decades going through this, trying to find that out. But it's like all of this stuff was created in relationship to other people. And the truth is, it has to be healed in relationship to other people. So, a coach, a therapist, whatever you might find, is that's usually the first other person. And they're going to help you see those things. They're going to help you understand and be able to move beyond those things if they've done it themselves. I think that's that's a little
Mm,
all the time.
preach it, preach it, preach it. Seriously, that is what it's about. The person you can help is the person that you used to be. And so if you've gone through it, then you can help the next person go through it. If you haven't gone through it, you don't recognize it. You won't see it.
Yeah.
And that got proven to me very
Yeah.
bluntly, very recently.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And it was, in my early 20s when I was, you know, post-marine chemical imbalance, suicidal, it was that journey out of that that really brought me into and through all of the things that we're talking about. And it was tough because I didn't have anybody like us to say, hey, can you help me? It's like nobody was, they were still talking about Freud back then, And so it really, you have to really become more self-aware. It's the foundation for recognizing and understanding how to recognize and transform your negative self-talk and all of that we've been referring to. Without that, it's unconscious. I've talked about it before on these calls. It's like we're only aware of about 5 or 10% of our thoughts, and the other is 90%. That 90% is subconscious. We're not aware of it, and that emotional backlog we're talking about, and all those things that are sabotaging us, that's where they live. And so it's not until you breathe and are able to journey into that subconscious and make those thoughts conscious that you fully understand and can do anything about them. You have to acknowledge the emotions that were there and express them fully and release them fully so you can heal and move forward.
I love that you said that. And I just want to say to you guys, he said a coach or a therapist. And when you hire him, you get both, which is kind of cool. It's your PhD is in psychology, and you did a lot of marriage counseling. Was that the
Tremendous
main
amount, yeah.
therapy? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And
Well,
worked with Dr. John Gray. I mean, come on, guys. He wrote Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus. You had to learn a thing or two from him and Barbara DeAngelis. I
yeah,
mean, it's
we were
it's very
co-creating workshops back in God knows when, the 80s, I think, in LA. So yeah, it was fun.
Yeah, yeah. And so you bring so much experience. And to my listeners, most of you are entrepreneurs. Most of you really get that once someone has done a job for so long, if they're good at it, if they're not just, riding the desk to get a paycheck, but if they're good at a job and they've done it for so long, they really have a wealth of knowledge that is literally priceless.
Yeah,
What Dr. Ron can take you through and has taken me through, is still taking me through, has been astronomical. Why? Because he's already dealt with it all. I have not brought him, I doubt I've brought him anything that is, oh, I haven't ever heard of that. Boy, that was a shocker, right? Because you've been there, you've done that. And
yeah,
those of you that are true pros, you know that, and you get it. You hire a person to get you what it is you want, and just to do it the first time the right way every time.
yeah. When
So
we lived in the Bay Area, things happen in waves, but for several years, therapists were coming to me, and they were all coming because they had recognized that there was some area of their therapy where they couldn't help people. Maybe it was anger issues or shame or fear, whatever it might be. And so they would come to me, and since that's comfortable for me to go into those areas, I could help them really heal and move forward. But that would allow them to go back out, and then they're able to help others. And it was such a rewarding thing to watch that ripple out, and really a healing and wonderful way.
So I want to go into that rewarding part. You said earlier something to the effect of no one in the family line is willing to go in and cut out the dead wood.
Yeah.
Um, what happens when one person in a family goes through these changes and really becomes a more conscious person?
That's a great question. I hadn't even thought about it for quite a long time. I remember this young woman, she probably in her mid-20s, maybe a little later, but she came to me, and she was one of her initial points was that her family of five siblings and her mom and her dad had passed away. It's like therapy was this, terrible thing that you'd never want to do. And she was doing my 8-week program, and within several weeks, all of a sudden, because she would touch base with her family members all the time, she started hearing about all the personal growth interests that they were developing, all the different things that they were dabbling in. And I think it was about the fourth week when she called her mom says, "I'm in therapy." It's like, where did that come from? So that was, really for me, that was when I started really seeing that interconnectedness of the energy, especially within a family that loves each other and cares, that it just, and then of course you can, in that healing, it heals others. I watch it with clients who have children with issues, and maybe adult children, and all of a sudden the child starts to heal and get better. A lot of times people would bring me their child, maybe a child's 3 or 5 or whatever, but they haven't spoken for a year. They, whatever the problem was they were having. I probably shouldn't say this, but I would go for a walk on the beach with them, and we'd kind of chat. I'd get to know them, and whatever we did, and then I'd recommend to the parents that, yeah, you should both take my program, and then we'll come back together. And every time, the child in 8 weeks would be healed. From that one conversation? I don't think so. It's because the issues of the parents that are being sublimated, shoved down, are coming out in the child, and the child doesn't know what to do with them. It's overwhelmed. It shuts the child down. And so as you heal the parents, then that child is opened and back to being a kid.
Ah, Walt Disney said this, it's never too late to have a great childhood. If you want to have a great childhood, you have to go back and you have to clean out the cave. You just got to do it. And you go through and you do it, and then what? You do it and it stays gone. You're good.
Well, everything you do, if you acknowledge, express, and release the emotion around an issue that you went through, then that's good. It's not generally going to come back up. Now, maybe you did a great job, but still there's more around that and it comes up later. That's fine. But by that time, you know how to handle that. You have the tools to handle it. And oftentimes it really is just breathing into, really getting an understanding of what your feelings are and looking beneath that. And all you're doing is really accessing another part of yourself. You know, for decades, I would watch an emotional issue come up, and just literally, by that time, all I had to do was breathe into it, look beneath it, and see what the real issue was, heal that, or breathe into those feelings, and that would allow me to access the very part I needed so that I could continue to evolve and move forward. The feelings are nothing but indicators that there's a part that's saying, "Hey, I'm ready to be healed." And as you go in, you access and heal that, you access more of yourself. You become more whole. You open up your heart, you open up your mind, quite literally. And so you access the capabilities that you need to fulfill that dream that you're living. A very, very successful entrepreneur shared with me. He said, "I never realized the complete connection between personal and professional growth and how they truly just go hand in hand." And yeah, they do. You can't do one without the other. I see people struggling to make more money or be more successful, and yet they're trying to do it without accessing more of who they are, accessing more greater capabilities, so they could easily do that.
Yeah. Okay, so for those of you who may have come in late or joining us, if you have questions for Dr. Ron or myself, please put them in the chat, and when we get done, we'll look at those and we'll answer all those questions at the end of the hour. And for those of you who have not seen the first two, if you want to go back, the second one is all about breathing. So you've seen Dr. Ron refer to breathing several times here. You have to breathe into it. That goes into a lot more detail so you understand what he's talking about. We all know that if you didn't breathe, you would be dead, but this is like very intentional breathing, and it opens up your subconscious, and it's really, really cool. And the sentence finishing is cool too. So we'll get into that.
There we go.
So Dr. Ron, self-awareness. How does self-awareness kind of mess with that self-talk?
Well, it's the lack of self-awareness that messes with it. I mean, self-awareness, really is another way to say, the more self-aware I am, the more conscious I am. The more conscious I am, the more aware of what I'm thinking, what I'm feeling, both emotionally and physically. More aware I am of what level of consciousness I'm on at any given time. And so, as you breathe in and heal, you become more self-aware. And quite literally, that allows you to be aware of what you're thinking, and you notice negative thoughts, you notice unsupportive beliefs, you notice those, and you begin to, those might just be indicators that, okay, I'm going to work with that, and, think in terms of all of that subconscious, that 90% is really mostly fear-based. There's subconscious thoughts about digestion and things. I'm not talking about that. But, it's really fear-based. So as you go in and you clean this stuff up, all of a sudden, all those subconscious, unsupportive thoughts and beliefs and things become conscious. And if you're coming from a place of self-acceptance and love, you're really embracing those parts that come up. You're really reparenting that inner child. You're really reconnecting with and helping heal the different parts of you that you left behind for fear of not being accepted or not being good enough or whatever the beliefs is that you came up with. And so it's just a process of becoming whole. It's a process of really learning to love and accept yourself, to become authentic.
Authentic. Authenticity, guys, is seriously the most attractive thing in a person. And it's impossible, in my opinion, you could correct me, and I'm sure you will if I'm wrong. It's impossible to be authentic if you don't even know what's going on. You don't even know who you are because it's your subconscious that's running your life.
Yeah.
Correct? Or
Yeah, no, and don't get me wrong. I work with incredibly intelligent and successful people.
I know.
When they come in, when they come in, it's just that they're ready to grow and evolve. They want to shift up. They're kind of hitting, they're doing the same old thing. They're trying harder. And things. If you try too hard, things start falling apart. And in that process, you finally go, geez, I need some help here. I need a different perspective. And that's when they call, and then I help them understand that it's not outer things and other people that are causing the problem. It's the solutions within themselves, which gives them the power to heal it and move forward in their life and learn how to continue to do that every time something does come up. You know.
Yeah, yeah, it's power. It is power. I mean, it's like if you've never changed a tire and you need to change a tire so that when it happens, it's not, you've got the tools, you understand, you can handle it. You're not at the effect of, and you use that a lot. You say that an awful lot. You don't want to be at the effect of. And at the beginning, it was just like, yeah, at the effect of. And now it's like, oh, oh, you're at the effect of it. It is controlling you. You're powerless until you release a lot of these yucky parts.
And I
So
want to just let me slide this in. It's we're really not talking, we're talking about things in one way, but the truth is the journey is about literally neurologically rewiring your brain so that you gain greater access to all of who and what you are, to your capabilities, to your vision of what you want in life, to the level of thinking, the higher level of thinking that you're capable of. So and you need that agility, you need that higher level of thinking, that quicker, more agile mind to be a leader, to be successful in the world, to have conscious relationships. So we're really, I'm just, all the, this is how you do it, but it's the result that matters. And that result is you're able to create the inspiring life that you want.
And to know what it is you want.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
That's I think we know and we have this picture of this is what I want, and once I get that, then I'll be happy. But I don't think people really know themselves well enough to know what it is that will really make them happy.
Well, I ask that when people first come in, when they first start, and it's always something they want for themselves. I want to make more money. I want to have better relationships. I want to become, CEO or whatever it is. A couple months later, after they've gone on this inner journey, the hero's journey, I ask the same questions. And because they've healed that emotional backlog, they've become more self-aware. It's like this curtain, this veil that looks like a solid wall that they couldn't see through before. That veil is lifted and they see what they want to aspire to, and they recognize who they want to and need to become to really be able to create that life that they've envisioned.
There you go.
There you go.
It's good stuff. And there you go. So, how does sentence completion help you uncover and reframe your limiting beliefs?
Well, talk therapy, I'm certainly not being critical of it, but it allows somebody to kind of circumnavigate to stay out of their deeper feelings. They can go, well, I don't know, I'm not sure. And the therapist goes, oh, okay, well, let's go over here and explore that. So for me, it's like I'm really interested in transformational work. I'm really interested in somebody going on this journey and then 30 years later still benefiting from it, which I see all the time. And so to be able to access this emotional stuff, to be able to access that greater self-awareness, you have to breathe. And while you're breathing, if you start a sentence, it's like, well, if I love and accept myself fully, you start that, and that circumvents that critical limited editor in your mind. I'll watch people and it's almost like they've got this little editor up there, and they'll start a sentence, but then they'll pause. And I can tell they're going up to their editor to see, well, is this okay to say, or is that unsafe? And they measure it and judge it, and then they let it out. Well, the trick is really to be spontaneous. Let those other parts of yourself that haven't had a voice for decades or whatever, let them express, because it's from them that you're going to really learn more about yourself. It's from those other aspects that you discarded, that you hid away in that inner cave so that you would be accepted and loved by others, that you really want to reconnect with. You really want to be able to hear, because they're the ones that in an attempt to you becoming whole, they're sabotaging. They're not mean, they're not bad, they're just saying, hey, yeah, we all want to grow. Let's connect. Let's become whole so we can.
Okay, so then how does it reframe it? How do you go from now I understand it to I'm free of it?
Well, it's just seeing things from a different perspective, that is reframing it. So if you have a belief system that if I get on stage and talk, people are going to judge me, that, I use that because I think it's like 70+% of people are scared to death to do public speaking. I think it's actually about 90%. But, it's really because we don't want to be judged. And that's because we're already judging each other, ourselves. And so, the sentence completion allows you to recognize what your beliefs are. You begin to recognize what your limiting thoughts are, what, where you're coming from. You begin to see what your childhood was about, how you were at the effect of different things. It doesn't have to be, you might go, oh, well, that shouldn't have bothered me. Well, maybe it wouldn't now, but when you were a little kid, it did. You know? Yeah, I mean, you can't, it's like so many parents, they hear them say, oh, stop crying, It's like, well, what they're saying is stuff that inside with all the other stuff so that I don't have to hear it, and the truth is that child's going to have to at some point go back to that and get in touch with those tears, that fear, that anger, and so it's, yeah, I've probably got off of what you asked me, but it's
No.
really, it's we've got to become aware and we've got to heal so that we can see what's really going on so that we can make better choices.
I, I,
You
I love that you went off because what you said, the power in that is unbelievable. You said parents say, stop crying, or even what I heard in my household is, I'll give you something to
right.
cry about. And that is, you're talking to a little tiny, helpless, defenseless person. It's a person. So
And
please
you're
don't do
saying,
that.
don't feel that.
Uh-huh.
Don't respond to whatever they're responding to. Don't respond to it. Anger wasn't comfortable for in my family. Fear wasn't acceptable in my family. So I learned that so early on. I don't ever remember being afraid. I didn't get angry because I'd shove all that down. And so when it finally did come up, it was a little very confronting and, very threatening to me, but it was hardly anything there, to be honest with you. It was just the discomfort of acknowledging and expressing those feelings that I had to work through. Yeah.
And did you work through them with someone? Did someone lead you through it?
Uh, I both, yeah. I got into, I went on my spiritual journey. So I was doing, I was meditating probably 30,000 some hours by the time I was in my late 30s. And meditation is really about quieting the mind. And when you quiet the mind, these subconscious thoughts are going to come up. So, I really do believe there's two pathways. And one is, you go to the Himalayas and in Tibet and you rent a cave and have somebody bring you a little bit of rice every day for a year or two, three, and you meditate because as you sit there, all of these things are going to start coming up and you're going to work through them. Now that scared the bejesus out of most people, but they're committed. They want to grow. So whatever it takes, they're willing to do that. So yeah, and they very comfortably and without any hidden agenda say, oh, this takes lifetimes. You know, what I'm talking about takes a couple of months. And it allows you, and I've talked to Zen masters and Hindu, gurus, I mean, high level. And I've talked to them about what I do and asked them what they thought about it. And they said, it's perfect. I asked them then, well, why don't you guys do that? And they go, well, da, da, da. But never did get an answer to that. But, but it was certainly a point of curiosity when I initially started asking that in my 20s and stuff. And, but yeah, it's wherever we started this from. But you've got
It-
to,
it- it's very shocking that I would not believe that any of those people that you said that to, that told you it was perfect, didn't after you left think, why aren't I doing it? And they probably started
and,
doing it at least with themselves.
yeah, and some had. I mean, when you look at the Bible, you look at you look at Milarepa, he's the Tibetan yogi, and you look at Christ, Christ was out in the desert going through his personal, emotional release. And Milarepa was in a cave for 22 years. And, he became the holy man. And as soon as he, within the first week or two, when he got back into town, all the same stuff was there. And so he learned to go in and heal rather than just sit and meditate. You look at you look at Buddha, he went on his, underneath the Bodhi tree, he's going through all of his stuff, all of his desires, all of his fears, all of his things, that he was at the effect of were needed to be healed and let go of. He had done a lot of preparation for that, so he could do it, rather smoothly and quickly. But he also, had been on this intense spiritual journey, for many, many, many years before that confrontational personal evening took place. And so, yeah, everybody has to go through it. It's just a matter of finding a comfortable environment, person, safe place where you can, feel like, they've gone through it, so they can be a guide. I mean, I don't, I'm nothing but a guide. That's all I am. I know this pathway that you need to go down to reach these levels of consciousness and to enjoy life in the way that we're talking about. Somebody wants to go down that path, then yeah, I'll take you down there. And I've traveled that path myself. I've traveled it with thousands of others, and so yeah, I'll make it safe for you, and maybe make it even an enjoyable journey.
It is, I don't mean to scare you guys. It is mostly enjoyable. And you have to face things. Like you said yourself, most people aren't willing to go in and cut out the dead wood. They're just not willing to do it. And guys, all of you know that when, let's say, procrastination, go all the way back to high school, and you've got your term paper and it's due and you don't do it and you don't do it. Maybe some of you did. Dr. Ron, you probably did. I didn't do it till the night
I
before.
didn't even know anything was due
Okay, good.
until
Good, good.
college. Then I got to.
Yeah. So, but then when you do it, it's like it wasn't anywhere near as bad as you thought it was going to be. And so it, I, I'm sure it's different for every single person. However, I cannot imagine a safer, uh, less intrusive,
Mhm.
all the words, the things that used to keep me believing that if it was back there, leave it back there. Those, all that stuff, I am publicly so sorry for that. Again, one more time, guys, please put any questions that you have in the chat. At the end, we'll read those. I just want to make sure that you know that for people who are coming in late, we will look at them all at the end. We don't even see them right now. So how does reframing our inner narrative impact our emotions, our decisions, our behavior?
Well, I think in terms of your inner narrative is sending signals from and to the brain. It's sending chemicals, signals to the body. The parasympathetic system is going to shut off. The rest and digest system is going to shut off, and the fight or flight system, sympathetic nervous system, is going to turn on, and you're going to burn it out because it's on all the time, and you're not going to digest food very well or breathe very well because the other system's turned off. And chemically, I've certainly talked about how there's the brain stem with the midbrain, the reptilian brain with the mammalian brain over it, and then there's the cortex, that the left and right brain connected by the corpus callosum. And when you're in stress, you literally are shutting the gateways, the chemical gateways down between that midbrain and higher brain. So you're literally not be able to access your higher level of thinking. So people do try harder, they do their best, but they're not accessing the best of who and what they are, to be capable of handling, I mean, that's why leaders come to me, is because all of a sudden they're putting themselves into that rapid change and increased complexity of today's business world. And they have to be present. They have to be breathing, curious, and present all the time so they can handle things. And you can only do that if you've got that subconscious cleaned up so that you can be present and really accessing the best of who and what you are.
That that's it in a nutshell, everyone. There you go. We have it.
There you go.
And so the power of the words that we say, and guys, I've done this in front of audiences countless times, and I've never been shy to do it. And if I thought it could fail, I would never do it. But I pick a little bitty person and a great big person. I bring them up to the front. I have the great big person stick their arm out. I have the little bitty person try and push their arm down. figure out the strength, do the thing. Then I have the great big person say, and I tell them, I promise I'm going to fix it. But I have them say, I'm a weak and unworthy person 10 times with power, with strength. And they're like, I'm a weak and unworthy person. And they say it 10 times. That little bitty person can push their arm down in front of audiences live. I've done it countless times. Then I have them say, I'm a strong and powerful person. And they put their arm out and the little person could hang on it and not get it down.
Yeah,
So that's happening even when you're not saying it intentionally.
right.
Whoo!
All the time. Yeah, you're disconnected. You are neurologically disconnected, and those unsupportive belief systems, that self-talk that's negative and unsupportive, is resulting in that disconnection of who and what you are. And so, yeah, I used to teach that in martial arts, where you do that, and it's just a belief. Unfortunately, it's like, oh, well, if I just believe, there's that old school, if I just believe enough, and, The Secret or whatever that was, it's not wrong. It's just that if you haven't healed, if you haven't gone through the deeper work, then it doesn't work very long. It doesn't last very long. I remember people would watch The Secret 100 times and be surprised that it didn't transform their life. It's like, well, information goes up here. Transformation takes place throughout your being, throughout your body.
That's gold. Could you say that again? That was gold.
I can't say it
No, really, because I'm okay.
again.
Information happens up here, transformation happens throughout your whole body.
Yeah.
And so, guys, those of you that are like me in the past that have just been like constantly listening all night long, programming, thinking that we're programming ourselves, we have 90% of us fighting what we're putting in the 10%. Is that kind of what you're saying?
Yeah. I mean, I read everything in the world. I really did. I know you have. I know other people have. I did a lot of work before I got to the, place where I understood what needed to be done. And it wasn't bad, having, I read the Bible. I'd read all sorts of philosophy and psychology. I'd read all of the stuff, and I had a lot of information. Didn't see any transformation. And I was living that. I was living, I was studying Buddhism. I was studying every religion I could possibly find. I'd spend years, studying it and experiencing it. But none of that really allowed me to heal and transform. It's all supportive. It was all good, but it's up in my head, not in my opening my heart.
Wow. So that kind of my next question is probably moot after that. So should everyone have a personal mantra?
Yeah, breathe and be curious. Breathe and be present. That should be your personal mantra. A mantra is this thing that, I remember when I was studying, I think I was studying, I'd been raised a Christian, so I certainly went through that. I read the Bible several times, studied it at the university from scholars and that type of thing. So it's not that I have not fully immersed myself in that, but I became curious of, well, what else is out there? And, so I started studying Hinduism, and, so those teachers, oftentimes those gurus, will give you mantras. And there was one organization that they would charge like $5,000 to give you your next mantra. A little bit of a money-making scheme. But it's really, a mantra is a sound, a vibration, and it sets up a vibration within your body. So your appropriate mantra is one that sets up a vibration in your body that helps you to heal. My mantra is breathing. Share different breathing styles and techniques, because that breathing allows me to get centered and to heal everything that I run into. And so breathing, meditation is really, doesn't matter whether you're whirling in circles or doing whatever kind of meditation you do. It's all about a single pointed focus. And that single pointed focus is, is what you need to quiet the mind. And it's in that silence that you can begin to actually reconnect and understand and heal yourself. So for me, maybe I'm just lazy, but my breathing was always there. So I thought, well, I'll just use that because it doesn't matter what situation I'm in or circumstance I'm in, I can breathe. And then, of course, I learned different breathing styles that support me in really, moving through different levels of acceleration and growth and development. And so, yeah, so mantra's good.
Mantra's good. Mantra's good. Um, how do you gave us the most powerful one is breathe and be present, breathe and be curious.
I think so.
And here's my hypothesis of why you say that is because if you haven't healed, all the mantras in the world aren't going to help you. But if you do a mantra that's telling you to do the thing that's going to heal you, then you can get there.
And if you're breathing and being curious, breathing, being present, then your highest level of thinking is available. So whatever you run into, you're going to be able to really take a look at it, see what your best next step is, and move forward in your life. And you keep breathing, you keep observing, you keep moving forward in your life. Yeah, something comes in and you feel stuck, good, breathe into that. Look beneath that, heal that, access that part of yourself, become whole and more conscious so that you can keep moving forward.
I like it. So, what are some examples of how reframing limiting beliefs have helped others overcome obstacles and thrive?
Well, I mean, boy, I've had so many clients. I'm trying to think of one that really, yeah. Let me just, yeah, shift I have to put a different cap on for that. It comes from a different part of my brain. So, yeah, if somebody has a limiting belief system that, women seem to say this more than any men, but, my picker is broken. And what they're saying is, I can't choose the right guy. And so, whether they start kind of stepping back from relationships or they engage in relationships that are unsupportive and aren't really giving them the love and acceptance that they want because they don't feel worthy. And so they begin to, through when they're working with somebody like myself, they begin to recognize, oh, that my picker is bad because I don't feel worthy. And oh, that comes from when I was a child. So if I heal that, acknowledge and express and release the emotion around that, then I can begin to see things differently. And I can have a different perspective. And I can think, oh, it's not my picker, it's just my level of consciousness. So as I breathe and become more self-accepting, then I open to relationship that's more accepting, loving, and supportive for myself and my new partner. And then they find themselves enjoying life. They find themselves on the most incredible journey they could ever possibly be on with a partner who, you're in relationship to help each other open each other's heart, to open each other's mind, to reach levels of, how much love can we experience together? And that's a good relationship.
Yeah, that's pretty special right there. And you've been happily married for over 34 years?
I would, no, probably about 30. No,
30?
just
Oh God.
no,
Oh, you got me. That's two. That's two today.
yeah, no. The first few years were, we were working through stuff, but we did it, when we'd run into a taboo topic where it didn't feel safe, we would choose to breathe and move into it. And that always took us to a more deeply connected, appreciative, compassionate, understanding, and loving place. And so, we'd both grown enough that we can continue that journey, looking deeper and deeper. And that allowed us to open up our hearts more fully to each other. That allowed us to open up our minds to different capabilities and possibilities for our life. So yeah, it's been 34, I think it's almost 35 years now. And it's been an incredible journey. It really has, beats rescuing and having a victim. My problem was I was actually pretty good at rescuing, so the victim would usually leave within a year or two. But yeah, I go, thanks, I'm better. I don't need a rescuer anymore. Like, well, wait a minute, I still need a victim.
Don't leave me. You can't leave
Yeah,
me.
back in my
Oh
early
my
20s,
God.
it was difficult. But yeah, yeah.
So speaking of relationships like that, if if you do have a relationship where one person is done, they have made it very clear that they're done, and the other person is not accepting of that, what's going on there?
I have literally, I had centers in Europe and in America, and I've had thousands of couples in front of me and mixes of all kinds. But what's amazing to me is they're all perfect for each other. Now they might not want to work out their stuff together, and it's not like they're the same, but this person's issues and this person's issues are always complementary in terms of the healing process, what they need from each other, that type of thing. But so that blew me away. It was like, wow, you can go into, you can be the daughter of an alcoholic and you can go in a room with 100, 200 people, and you're going to find the man who has some negative relationship with alcohol so that you can work that out together. And it's, amazing. And so, yeah,
Huh.
it's really, it's a matter of if they're both willing to work on it, then with somebody guiding them through it, it's gonna happen. I've had a fellow just after COVID hit, quite literally, very successful guy, and he called, and the girlfriend had, as she was walking out the door, said, "Call Ron," some variation of that. And he's a tough guy. I mean, he's not a, ask for help sort of person at all. But he was desperate. The love of his life was leaving. Other things were happening and looking scary. And she was gone. She was not coming back. She had tried, she was just tired of the whole thing and all of his stuff. And, you know, within a month, he started falling in love with himself. Within a month, he was restructuring his businesses. Within literally 2 or 3 months, he was a changed human being and was much more compassionate, much more empathetic, much more caring about not only himself, but others. And all of a sudden they started reconnecting, and within about 6 months they were married, and they're a great couple now. They really are. I love it. But so nothing's, in stone until you know, breathe into and heal, because everything can change that. Quite literally, it does. Yeah. And especially if you stay on that journey together, then it's that's gold.
Yeah, yeah, for
Mm.
sure. And I can attest, guys. Once again, after this is, I've got one more question for Dr. Ron, then we're going to go to your questions. So please put them in the chat, and we'll get those answered. In my life, I completed the 8-week journey with Dr. Ron. I don't remember how long ago, 4 or 5 months ago, something like 6 months ago, and it radically changes. Everything radically changes. Things that you didn't even know were going to change, and the change is all for the better. It's you just, things come up and you deal with them, and you're able to deal with them. You don't stuff them anymore, and so hopefully,
It's an
eventually.
exciting journey of self-discovery. That's really all it is. You're just getting to know yourself and
Mhm.
understanding and empowering yourself. Yeah.
It's fabulous. I highly recommend it. So, how can the listeners stay consistent in rewriting their inner narrative and maintaining a goal-oriented mindset? Last question.
Last question. Well, they're going to have to rediscover and accept and learn to love all parts of themselves, all aspects of your life, and that you've hidden away, all those parts that you shoved down into that inner cave so that you could hide them so that you'd be acceptable to others. You really want to go in and reconnect with, heal and reintegrate those aspects of yourself into your life so that you're not looking for love outside, you're looking for it, within. And as you reconnect and integrate them into your life, you become whole and confident, that authentic person that we've been talking about. And it's from that place of self-acceptance and love that you recognize your highest intention, as we said. All of a sudden, that veil gets lifted, and you recognize your purpose in life. Then you have access to the abilities, literally the mental abilities, the openness, the power to create the inspiring life that you dream of. And it's from that place that you're able to see that everything and I mean this so, so deeply, everything that comes into your life is an opportunity to evolve and live more consciously. And that is truly the path of creating your inspired life and realizing your full potential.
There you go. We're on the path. So, guys, we're coming to your questions now, and we've got a question from Mustafa. Could you please explain the term being present at the moment?
Well, yeah, first of all, you have to be breathing because if you're not breathing, you're lost in your head and disconnected. If you have subconscious thoughts and belief systems, those are rattling through your brain, 90% of your thoughts going on like that. With that going on, you can't be present because you're not here and now. You're looking at what you want or afraid you won't get or afraid you'll lose or, all these attachments and fears that, Buddha talked about. And so it's really, it's about breathing. It's about being present. It's about if you can be in a situation, say you're in a conversation with somebody and you're not trying to figure out how you're going to answer their question, you're really just breathing and listening to them and trusting that as that information comes in, you'll be able to then respond appropriately. And, that is being present. When life is coming at you from all different directions, whether it's in relationship or at work or whatever it is, if you're playing whack-a-mole trying to, take care of all these problems, and feeling like you're actually accomplishing something by, keeping up with it all, you've missed the point because you're doing that from a much more diminished aspect of who you are. You're doing that from a frightened place. You might be good at it, you might get a lot of rewards from it, but you're going to burn out. You're not going to create an environment that's supportive for yourself and others. And so you have to be able to sit and breathe and be present so that you can deal with people, so you can be in touch with not only with what you're feeling, but what they're feeling, not only with what you need, but with what they need. And that's a whole different experience than most people perhaps have ever had.
I would agree with that. I definitely would. Can you can you do anything bad when you're present?
Well, you wouldn't be doing something bad. You might take care of yourself, and other people might not, like that, but you're not going to be harming other people. You're going to be present. You're going to be accessing. Most people do things bad out of fear, out of limited thinking, out of not seeing bigger possibilities for any situation. So if you're breathing and being present, then what's going to come forward is really, well, yeah, so that's what's going on, and there's your best options, and you breathe and take one of those. And if you keep doing that onwardly, that's called living mindfully. That's literally how you develop a mindful lifestyle. And so, yeah, it's hard to, people just don't realize that they're cutting themselves off from what they're potentially capable of. They're in situations that they're struggling with, and they just, they're in their head trying to, deal with it. And it's like, you can't do that. It doesn't work. You have to step back. You have to breathe. You have to heal. You have to become whole enough to be able to see things from that new perspective so you can, take care of life, take care of your family, take care of others.
So often now we're hearing about road rage.
Mhm.
Severe. It's not just somebody gonna punch somebody out. It's, I mean, murderous. Uh, just
Yeah.
this evil comes out of someone who's probably pretty normal.
Mhm.
What does that have to do with presence?
Getting angry is fine, but it should be appropriate in relationship to what's going on. When I was young, I'd get really angry if somebody cut me off or, on the freeway or something like that. All that was is my emotional backlog coming out because I'd taken I didn't have my guard up for a moment. So that emotional backlog would come out. People do it with crying. They're watching a movie and they're sitting there all safe and all of a sudden they start crying. And it's like, whoa, wait a minute. you know, And, so tears and anger and feelings of shame. And, I was watching the Bob Dylan movie a week or so ago, and I was just so struck by the brilliance. Whether you like it or not, that's a whole different thing. But the brilliance of what he was writing and how he was writing it, that literally accessing what I call big mind, and just watching that come through him and creating that. And he was so uniquely him and authentic in this way that nobody had ever seen before. And I found myself, my breath caught two or three times. I had to literally take a breath in and reconnect because I was so, caught by that brilliance and, just, yeah, wanting to be that way even more so than I have been. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay. We have another question. Some people, like Anthony Robbins, said, in your life, if you have a goal, then anything that happens to you, you just ignore it and move forward. But your perspective is completely different, and you are saying you should stop and heal it and fix it. Could you elaborate more?
Well, I know Tony. Great guy. Really is. He used to do fire walks in our backyard, Santa Monica. And, it's not whether our beliefs are different. He just has a different come from. You know, mine's more one of I trust the process. If something comes up, if I ignore it, it's kind of what you were saying. If you shove it down, it's just going to come back up in some other way. It'll just come up and sabotage you in some other way. If that worked, I'd be all in. I really would be. But it's a great way to make money is to sell that, but it's not a long-term fix. When he's working with people in his workshops, I see them go have breakthroughs and how tremendous. But I also heard from many that it didn't last. It was initially a wonderful breakthrough, but it didn't have that lasting effect. And so they were still kind of sabotaging their life later on. And I'm not criticizing Tony. If you did the work that we're talking about and then took Tony's, you'd be on a rocket ship. It really would, because you wouldn't have all those things trying to pull you back into old belief systems and limitations. So he's absolutely correct in what he's saying. But if you don't do that inner healing, then it's not going to work. And I mean, I know a lot of folks in the personal growth business and they do extremely well, but only about 3% of their programs are successful. Only 3% of the people they work with are successful because they haven't, they don't do this in work. They talk about all these tools and things that can help you along, and they're right. They can help you, but they don't, they don't really heal what's holding you back. It's that anchor you talked about. If you can be this beautiful sailboat capable of sailing anywhere in the world, but if you start noticing your life, you're really kind of sailing in a limited area, circumference of some kind, and then you kind of go, oh, what are those lines off the stern? And you reckon, oh, well, those are going down to some anchors. And, the anchors are those, things that happen to us when we're, collectively or specific ones that happen to us when we're younger. And those anchored lines are all the emotions that connect us, limit us, and we're at the effect of those anchors. So I'm not saying bring the anchor up on deck and ruin the beautiful boat. I'm saying let's acknowledge, express, and release, those anchor lines so that we can be free of those anchors.
Okay, and I want to jump in on that question as well, as someone who personally has followed Tony Robbins and his 30-day program. I found it in the 90s and it helped me immensely. And you guys, I want you to know that I have been to Tony Robbins, 2 different of his seminars. I have listened to I've gone to countless seminars. I have listened to countless books and tapes and podcasts and still do. And none of it got me to where the rest of the world would look and see that I was successful and happily married. And that's what the world saw.
Right.
However, it wasn't until I did the 8-week program that I was truly fully in here, free. And those, the anchor that he's talking about would mess me up and mess me up. I was hitting a ceiling, and this work is something that everyone should do.
Yeah.
And I am trying to sell something. I'm
I
trying
mean,
to sell you.
I took Tony's 30-day, I think it was on money or finance or something. And I listened to it every day on the way to chiropractic school. And I was like, whoa, this is great. I'm gonna and I really wanted it. I owned it. I was gonna, but I don't feel like it had the result. I'm not saying just
Yeah.
because I did, nobody does. I'm just, saying, yeah.
Yeah. Well, and the thing is, I did get the result, and I'm telling you, I I got the superficial result.
Yeah.
And I love Tony. I will definitely be going back. I'll definitely, I love Tony. And nothing that I went through with Tony even came close to what this work has done for me. For me. The other work probably, because I'm able to be a philanthropist. Wow, that was good.
I've never met one of those before.
Well, I bet you're honored. So anyway, guys, I just, that was just my answer to that question. Is this work is not something that you should, wait, I think okay, nope, that was our last question. Um, so
Well, think of it just, it's the most transformational process or experience you'll ever have in your life. I can say that without any wonderings because everybody's said that. And so, that's thousands of people. So, yeah, it's true.
yeah, it's good stuff. So please meet us back here, same bat time, same bat channel
Oh, great.
next
Great.
Thursday for
Mhm.
our last live YouTube. And thank you guys for putting up with the beginning and us trying to figure all this stuff out. And we're here for you. If you have any questions, comments, or anything like that, these are on Think Your Way to an Epic Life on the live tab. So if you just go on there and you hit the live tab, you'll get this one. I don't know how long it'll take, but the first two and this one. And we would love to have you back again. And thank you so much for your time. Any parting words, Dr. Ron?
Thanks for coming. Look forward to seeing you next week. And yeah, love yourself. Literally, step back and learn to love yourself. It'll make all the difference in your life.
I love it. And breathe and be curious and be present.
Indeed.
Thanks, guys.